Hello everyone, Taki here. Odin won't win the award for the fastest handheld release, but it certainly will win the award for the most secrecy. I've been waiting for over 1 year to be able to review this product, but so far I've been pretty limited on what I can say and what I can show. Today, things are a little different. There's a part of Odin that I've been looking forward to that I can freely talk about in this video. Among other things, the Super Dock allows you to expand the functionality of Odin by allowing you to use retro controllers. You gain the ability to play some of your favorite GameCube games with native or third-party controllers, as well as some old-school co-op with N64. In this video, we're going to take a look at a prototype of the Super Dock. I've been testing this prototype out for a few months, and I wanted to get this video out before I had to mail it back and move to a new house. By the time you're watching this video, hopefully I'll be completely set up in my new studio. The first thing that you're going to notice is that there is a clear front plate that goes over the front of Odin. There's a big enough gap for the device to slide comfortably into place on the connector, but you can remove this front plate if you want to. On the front of the dock, you'll see that we have two N64 ports on both ends. This allows us to use aftermarket N64 controllers like the one I have here, or you can use an official one. We also have access to two USB 3.0 ports on the front to plug in standard USB accessories or controllers. These were originally intended to be used for optional controller port adapters, but that was canned. I also want to mention that even though this dock is made for Odin, it will still work for anything that has a Type-C connector that can fit on it, like this Red Magic 6 for example. On the left side you have one GameCube port, and on the other side you have another one. Again, you can use an official controller like the one I have here, or an aftermarket one. They should both be recognized. On the back you have a lot of goodies. You have three USB 3.0 ports, for things like external hard drives, gamepads, and other peripherals. You also have an Ethernet port, which is killer for low latency game streaming and high bandwidth media consumption. Near these is an HDMI port that supports 4K at 60 FPS with DP video out on Odin, and the Type-C power port for the entire dock. There's also a removable panel on the back of the dock, and this is where you can install a 2.5-inch hard drive if you want. Under normal circumstances, this HDMI port would work because the bottom of Odin supports DP video out, but I had to break it to fix something else inside the dock. Odin has two video out ports, so I'll film this video by using the HDMI port on the top of the device. I just wanted to mention this because I know people will wonder why I'm using this top port. So here we are set up with Odin plugged into the dock without that front clear plastic, and I can use this fake N64 controller without any issues. Even though you can use this controller for anything you would want, you are most likely going to be using this for N64 games. Nintendo 64 is one of my all-time favorite systems, and it's really cool to get this kind of support with a device that can emulate the system very well. I will also mention that the display on Odin can be configured to be completely shut off when it's connected to the dock, but I kept it on to make it easier to film this video. When you are in an app like I am now, you don't really ever need to interact with a touchscreen on Odin, but it is useful to have something like a mini Bluetooth keyboard so you can do everything you'd want without having to interact with the device itself. I imagine we will see some software updates to make it easier to do these things on just a connected controller after this ships and it's in people's hands. With a few exceptions, I rarely ever get to see how other people interact with the devices I review before I review them, but I did get the chance to tag along with AYN while they were filming some videos for the campaign, and I have to say, it was an interesting experience. Number one. Yi, yi, yi. Go. Man, your guy is losing. Very shit. You need to cheer him on. He's so trash. Don't get me wrong, Odin is a very powerful handheld that you can completely enjoy by yourself, but there was something about seeing a group of people who live in a country that never saw a release of an N64 that used controllers like the ones in this video that brought me right back to the 90s when my friends and I were all bad at the games together because they were brand new. A lot of use and enjoyment that I will personally get from this dock comes from game streaming and playing Android games, although it was cool to see it used like this in this setting. Chances are the games that you could play on Odin with these controllers won't be new to you like they were to the people in this video, but this total package does make the handheld a great party console when paired with good retro multiplayer games and a group of friends. They shouldn't even need to know how to play to have a good time. That leaves us with GameCube Controller Support. For this, I'm using an official controller plugged into the left port on the dock. I had to map my controller buttons inside the Dolphin emulator and I was good to go. All of the buttons worked well without any issue, as you can see on screen now. I filmed with my controller visible on screen so you can get an idea for the level of latency on this system. There doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary here, but I can do a full latency test in my Odin review if people want to see that. I know a lot of people want to see more GameCube footage on Odin, and so do I. I'm waiting, and I have been waiting, for a software update that is supposed to drastically improve performance before I film a proper showcase on GameCube and Wii emulation. I mentioned that most of my enjoyment with the dock will come from Android games. This last part will illustrate what I meant. In case you are wondering why the device on screen looks so janky, I'm using a really early prototype of Odin from early this year only because it's been flashed with the latest firmware that supports this new feature that I want to show. Say for example that you have an Android game that you really like to play on Odin. You have made a screen mapping profile, as I showed in another video, that you use whenever you play on the device. The profile that I'm using right now doesn't have all of the actions I need for this game, but it is good enough to show this update. If you've used a profile for long enough, you will build up muscle memory without having to look at the mappings on screen. The latest dev firmware of Odin allows you to connect to any controller via USB or Bluetooth, with the benefit that they will now get to fully use the controller profile that you use when you are on the go. This is a killer feature that makes Odin the ultimate run-and-gun device. The best part is that you don't even need to use the dock. This will work even when you aren't connected to a TV, and it's my favorite part of the device right now. Well, that's all I have for you today on the Super Dock. If you have any questions about anything I showed here, leave them down below and I'll get back to you. While you're there, make sure to let AYN know to hurry the hell up so we can finally see this get a proper release. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.